Everybody. I'm Pradyut Hande, Senior Growth Marketer and Product Evangelist at Netco Solutions, and your host and moderator this afternoon. On behalf of Netco, I extend an extremely warm welcome to all attendees across the globe, all our guest speakers, panelists, and of course, my fellow Netcorians. Ladies and gentlemen, we live in uncertain and unprecedented times today. The marketing playbook, as we know it, is undergoing a paradigm shift. The ongoing COVID-19 crisis is reshaping industries, competitive landscapes, consumer behavior, and marketing budgets. Set in this backdrop, we at Netco Smartech want to continue to empower you. And that's precisely the vision with which we've conceptualized the virtual MarTech Mashup Summit 2020. Asia's first ever and largest online MarTech conclave of this nature. To help you realign your marketing strategies during these testing times, today's unique event will see leading industry experts from India, Australia, Malaysia, and Vietnam share their actionable insights on all things digital growth, app user engagement and retention, personalization, and data-driven user experiences. So the way we've built out this entire event over the next 150 minutes, and for clarity and context, we have 4 individual speaker sessions to begin with, where each speaker will have 15 minutes to present, and followed by a 5-minute session of question and answers, where you guys can put in your questions. I'll tell you exactly how you can do that in a moment. These 4 sessions will then be followed by an engaging panel discussion that will last for 30 to 35 minutes, following which there will be a 30-minute networking session where all you need to do is go to the social lounge and take a seat at the virtual table, where you'll have the opportunity to interact with the speakers and panelists, and also understand how your website or mobile app can unlock new waves of growth through our special Netco Smartech Relief Program, which will essentially provide our AI-based personalization module or suite free of cost for up to 6 months. So you can grab a seat at the table and engage with one of our growth experts who's going to tell you exactly how you can harness the power of AI-led personalization to increase your website or app conversions by almost 8 to 13%. So don't miss out on that. We hope that these razor-sharp insights shared today will enable you to reimagine growth for your brands, not just for the remainder of 2020, but beyond that as well. Welcome once again to Netco Solutions Virtual MarTech Mashup Summit 2020. And before we begin, I'll just share a few key pointers that you need to keep in mind. When you're looking to ask a question, there's a raise your hand option on the right-hand side where you can raise your hand, and if you do pick your question up, you will be brought on the virtual stage as such. In an alternative scenario, you can also drop a message in the chat box if you want to put in a comment or ask a question, which we'll be doing during the question and answer session. Feel free to take screenshots of slides or speakers and share their insights or your key takeaways across Twitter or LinkedIn. In fact, this is something that we strongly urge and encourage you to do. There's a special surprise in store for the attendee or delegate that posts the most across social media. Don't forget to use the handle Netco Solution and also the event hashtag VMMU20. Be sure to do that so that we at our end can ensure that that experience is seamless and we are able to track that. Don't miss the networking session. I mentioned that is something that you will derive a lot of value from. And we'll also be elaborating more on the Netco Smartech Relief Program. The URL for the landing page is mentioned on the screen. You will continue to receive more details around this during the course of this event. So be mindful of those key points. So there's your handle at Netco Solution. There's your event hashtag VMMU20. and be sure to be a part of the networking session. Now, without further ado, let me begin the event at large. Let me now introduce you to our keynote speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me none other than Mr. Niranjan Sane, Head of Customer Retention at Tata Click India, a leading e-commerce player in this region. Just a little bit about him before Niranjan can begin with his presentation. Niranjan has been with Tata Click since its inception and has played various roles as the business has scaled from 0 to 1000 CR INR over 3 years. He has worked across product management, analytics, and marketing functions, and currently heads the customer retention function at Tata Click. He is passionate about data-driven marketing, MarTech products, and building brand stickiness in a highly competitive market segment. So without further ado, let me now welcome Mr. Niranjan Sane on stage so that he can take you through his cutting-edge insights on how e-commerce brands can benefit from the power of personalization and data-driven experimentation. Gentlemen, we now have Niranjan Sane, Head of Customer Retention of Tata Click, to walk you through his session and our keynote address. Welcome once again, Niranjan. The stage is all yours.
Yeah, so let me just start from the beginning once more. So the opportunity for e-commerce in India is quite strong and well established by now. 5 to 600 million customers with access to the internet. About a fifth of these so far are online shoppers, and the opportunity for e-commerce really lies in there. Look at US and China, and one can easily draw a conclusion that the e-commerce growth will come both from expansion of new users as well as the increase in per capita consumption in terms of the online audience. Tata Click was started as a business about 4 years ago for targeting brand-defined customers and serving this through curated collection of brands, authenticity of merchandise, and a differentiated experience. Tata Click is present in all the major verticals of e-commerce or e-retail, including fashion, jewelry, consumer electronics, durables, smartphones, and many other categories on the cards for expansion. Tata Click Luxury is a story that has actually worked out particularly well. Here, we essentially sell merchandise from global and Indian premium as well as super premium brands, the likes of Michael Kors, Montblanc, Armani, a host of collections from Indian luxury brands. In this market, there's a strong demand in India. There's a fairly severe problem of counterfeits, and hence the trust that comes with the Tata brand as well as the convenience of online shopping is something that's giving a very strong opportunity for Tata Click Luxury to hold its own and to grow at an extremely rapid pace. Diving into personalization, I want you to remember the last time you were at any brick and mortar retail store, and the image that will first come to your mind may look very similar to one which is there on the left up screen corner of the screen. Any offline store more or less looks the same to all the customers who walk in through that particular day. They have to travel the exact same aisles, do the exact same part to purchase, have the exact same payment options, yet the merchandise in their baskets could not be more different. Coming to the online storefront, that's where these possibilities get unlocked, because we are actually talking of 1 million storefronts being live all at the same time, each serving a unique customer, understanding what that customer really wants, catering the merchandise to her needs, showing payment options, giving incentives, doing all the possibilities of personalization, so that that store is actually that customer's world of looking at retail. At Tata Click, as we implemented personalization, we were able to get a fairly strong upside on many metrics, including the top line metric of GMV. We implemented this across web, app, CRM channels like push notifications and emailers, the digital marketing channels, etc. But the positives of personalization are quite often spoken about and are well documented. So I thought I would instead start by discussing the challenges. The first challenge in personalization is that it is a world of 1 million metrics. At any point in time, you'll have about half of these showing a positive graph and the other half going negative. Come back after a week and you have a different set of half who is now in the positive and different set of half who is in the negative. Managing your business KPIs and goals becomes extremely challenging in this kind of an environment, especially when these metrics are quite nuanced and highly interlinked. Trying to optimize for one metric may later on lead to a lower performance on something else, which was not originally intended. Second challenge is in personalization. We found out that there is no real final answer. There is no finality to it. It's all about testing. Each week at the office, each day of the office, you're actually going in with a hypothesis, trying to challenge how the current system works, bringing in some fresh ideas from your own team, observing competition, and trying to see how that can be adopted to your business, trying something completely new which you've got from a customer insight, and hence it's an ever evolving world. Lastly, and the biggest challenge to my mind that personalization poses is the lack of control or almost giving up control. As you go deeper and deeper into the world of machine learning and AI, you have to trust these machines, and nobody can really pinpoint and explain why a recommendation of that particular t-shirt shows up for a customer who just bought a smartphone. At the same time, you need a way to manage all of these. For this, I thought I would put together a framework called Building Blocks of Personalization and take you through the journey, how we experience it at TataClick, and see if any of that will apply to your business. The first building block is the customer lifecycle. Looks extremely obvious, and as we plotted this out into a fairly big whiteboard, we realized that the metrics that matter at each stage of the lifecycle are extremely different. Hence, the importance of detailing it out actually brings out the initiatives that are needed from your merchandising team, from your marketing team, from your technology team, in order to make the most of the customer lifecycle. As a business, you would of course want your revenues to go up, your profits to go up, the number of customers to go up. But when you're looking at acquisition, your cost of acquisition may matter a lot. Your activation rates on an app may matter a lot. Which channels are the most effective are metrics that dominate this side of the world. Versus on the polar opposite, which is on the loyalty front, you would want to worry about profit per customer, because if your loyal customers are still loss making, then you may never really break even. So having a path to making them profitable becomes an extremely important metric. Coming to a side called winback, where you have your churned customers, you would only want to optimize for conversion rate, not really bother about the value of purchase so much. As long as you're able to reactivate a lot of these customers, the LTV or the lifetime value may still work out. Hence, the campaigns and the way these campaigns look to each of these cohorts or to each sub-segment within them are actually quite different. On the acquisition side, you want to take a brand position, you really want to build a story, you want to give them reasons to believe why TataClick is a good destination to shop from, versus somebody who is right now actually browsing and trying to decide in a high involvement category like a refrigerator, that's the example on the screen. You would want to showcase a buying guide and help them narrow down on the multiple choices which are available. As I was saying, on the acquisition side, the campaigns look very different. This is more about brand storytelling, about giving them a reason to believe, about engaging with the customers, showcasing what your brand really stands for. For someone who's in the shopping funnel for a high involvement category like a refrigerator, you would want to showcase them a buying guide and help them narrow down in terms of the various features which are available in such a category. For a customer about whom you have some history and that customer is buying a smartphone, you would want to do recommendations of products that go together with that exact model of the smartphone and hence increase the shopping frequency. The second building block is data. In your organization, this may be called as a data lake, a data warehouse, or any other rendition of it. And I may almost sound like a school teacher when I say that this is the real foundation of the entire piece, and you cannot get your personalization right if your fundas are not really there in place. The first and the most obvious one is the customer data platform, or a 360 view of the customer. Here, you have to stitch together the demographic, behavioral, transactional, interactional, all of these data, create derived data like LTV, various product or brand affinities, segmentation, preferred time of day, etc. Make all of this data available to the marketing side. Where I've seen a lot of challenges come up in our as well as parallel organizations is the effort to stitch together this data is also a lot, but making it available to marketing is actually the highest, so that it does not remain locked within the analytics ambit, but your campaigns can actually use this to optimize for their own metrics. Second thing where we often find quite an amount of underinvestment is the data about product and the data about campaign. All of these three, the customer, the product, and the campaign, need to come together in their data structures so that the power of personalization can truly be unleashed. On the product side, we had to spend a fair amount of time to standardize variables. Simple example, a shoe is mentioned in 100 different or actually 150 different sizes on a platform, because some of your brands will be going for a UK size system, some may be going for an India size system, some may be going for something else. So whenever your algorithm wants to recommend other shoes which are exactly similar to that size, they can only look at a very limited part of your catalog. Data standardization and integrity hence becomes extremely critical over there. The most amount of time that we actually ended up spending was on the campaign side, which involves all of your UTMs or all of your CID parameters. Standardizing all of these data, making sure that all of those are created and recorded in an extremely systematic way.
Niranjan, just a second, once again. Your screen share is not working. Could you just try that again?
Okay. Just let me know once you're able to see it.
Yes, visible again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So the last bit was on the campaign metadata, where we ended up spending the most amount of time. These are all the UTM or the CID parameters which exist in the typical marketing world. The highest amount of effort had to be spent to define each variable, the values that these variables can take, write even simple Excel macros so that the variable is always written in that exact standard language, so that then the downstream machines can actually understand and interpret and act on this data. Tying all of these together is what really created the power of fundamentals of personalization for Tata Click. The third building block comes up as UI UX and testing. You will find a lot of examples of which algorithms to choose, and your data scientists will be extremely busy trying to identify why this exact blue stripe kurta is the best recommendation to give. But what often gets missed out is the importance of the UI and the UX. Where exactly are you showing these outputs to the customer? How they appear in that customer journey makes an equal amount of difference on performance as well as overall customer experience. Example on the screen is similar product, a fairly commonly used kind of a widget. In the first example, when you scroll down on a product page, you can see similar products, which is the expected journey. On the right hand side, what we also ended up implementing is that if you get a product out of stock, similar products will actually pop up on the screen as a widget, because that is the next logical step that you want the customer to take. And there is a lot of customer delight in keeping your UX highly intuitive. As you experiment along these lines, you will actually find 10 different ways of doing the exact same recommendation, and hence able to constantly unlock new value from the exact same algorithms. Your data scientists, of course, need to keep on getting better at why exactly that bruise type kurta, but there's enough knowledge and documentation on that. The second piece over here is the importance on testing, which I referred to before. The A/B testing or the multivariate testing frameworks and the integrations in the systems become extremely critical. At Tata Click, we have a overall organization framework called cultural pillars, and one of the pillars is called fast and frugal. Under that, we push our employees to fail frequently, fail fast, but fail frugal. This has an extremely important bearing on the area that we are discussing today, because without enough experimentation, you would never be really able to challenge the existing systems and move on to the next curve. And if you look at any matured players in the industry, you can't really reverse engineer what they've done and implement it in your systems and expect the same results. Each and every day, people in those organizations are still walking in and trying to challenge the way the leadership gaining platform operates, and are trying to invent different ways. In the personalization world, in the digital world, failing is actually quite cost efficient and the best way to grow, and hence has a lot of importance. The last building block, equally critical to the first three, is the organization structure, the talent management, the KRAs that you set. Across your marketing function, your analytics function, your revenue function, you would want to solve for these three problem statements. There's nothing really strongly insightful in that. You would want to solve whom to target, you would want to solve what to sell, you would want to solve how to sell. But while most organizations will look at these as individual functions, I would urge you to look at these as skill sets. There's a lot of interplay in the world that we are in these three especially, where you would want your marketeers to solve for the how to sell, at the same time have a strong view on segmentation. You would want your revenue teams to maximize at a particular P&L metric, at the same time figure out what behavior rewarding will actually lead to a certain value. And hence moving people around in these three teams has actually given a lot of value to us at Tata Click. If a particular resource has done more than one of these three, you are typically able to really move up the curve and bring in a completely different set of ideas to the table. Typically, somebody who has done analytics when moved to marketing will never be satisfied with the output of a campaign and will constantly want to challenge how that particular creative is looking. Whereas the other way around, somebody going with the marketing knowledge into analytics will know exactly which business metrics will the widget finally improve. In summary, the building blocks just mapped out on the screen, if you want to take any notes or anything like that, are in our experience the customer lifecycle map where it all begins, the data lake or the structure on which all of this is built, the front end which is to do with the UI UX and a continuous testing approach, and finally the organization or the team which is there to deliver on these. With any of these four failing, you'll typically find a lot of implementation issues in personalization. And while productization is quite strong, you will find a lot of solutions which are very good in doing personalization. As an organization, nailing these four actually becomes extremely critical to achieve the output in terms of the business metrics. Just before we close, I wanted to cover the current situation, which was quite unprecedented, definitely unpredictable, and a sudden shift in market that has brought about. We see a number of businesses pivoting in a tremendous way in India as well as in the other markets. Very specifically, one point that I want to sort of draw out is the importance of MAUs or monthly active users on your mobile app. The way the Google and the Apple algorithms work is that if your customer base starts getting dormant, the reach of your organic channels like push notifications dramatically goes down. What that means in business language is that to reach your own organic base, now you need to spend a disproportionate amount of money on paid marketing just so that those apps become reachable and are able to generate that organic revenue all over again. In order to avoid that, at Tata Click, we have gone in through three different levers. One is content, one is quiz and contest, and one is story based. We have completely transformed the way the app right now looks and are able to focus on completely different ways of engaging with the customer, while it will take time for the traditional retail to come back into the play. Lastly, all the things that we spoke of so far, whenever a business is running, everyone honest hand to their heart will say that you will always have a struggle with getting the time and resources for projects like these. Corona, in a very ironical way, provides a lot of bandwidth, especially on the technology and the analytics front, which can be well deployed to achieve what all we discussed so far and deliver a lot of long-term projects in this time. That's it from my side. Over to you.
Thank you, Niranjan. I think those are some very cutting-edge insights shared on from your end. I think I really like the way how you spoke about the four building blocks. I think that makes it very actionable from a key insight point of view as to how marketers today can build that foundation from the ground up with a CDP in place to drive personalization at scale, and how experimentation continues to be the name of the game. Because as we mentioned, the COVID-19 situation is unprecedented. No marketer was ever ready for this, and brands need to evolve, adapt, and pivot their strategy accordingly. So now we are open to taking questions. We can start taking questions. You can actually put in your questions by raising a hand or through the chat option as well. So we have our first question from Rohit Jain. Niranjan, let's take our first question. How is Tata Click utilizing organic traffic during these times?
So, like I mentioned, generating organic traffic is actually quite a challenging thing unless you're able to pivot your business in some way or the other. Traditional business model, of course, is right now not being used. Even in retail, we are one of the few who are accepting orders, but promising a shipping date which is in line with the government norms means that you can't really generate demand through that route. You'll find different businesses trying to solve this in different ways. Myntra, for example, has done a fairly big piece on fitness. On Flipkart, you are able to stream movies. On Tata Click, you are able to play some games, interact, get some quizzes, contests, read content. So really, you need to transform your business in whichever way possible to mimic a content or a continuous engagement behavior. That's the only way we see the audience engagement going up right now. At the same time, able to solve, if we are able to solve for audience engagement during these times, you'll actually find a very, very sticky base once you're able to come out of it.
Okay. Our next question is, how has Tata Click's how did Tata Click initially look at their marketing strategy? Whether going into the large scale segment was a thought out strategy, or did you want to go about it in a fragmented manner?
Okay. So I can actually go back to the inception of the Tata Click business, at which point it was very clearly decided that we need to go in with a differentiated strategy in this market. The predominant way in which e-retail has been done in India is three things: largest selection, fastest delivery, cheapest price. You look at all the market leaders or the people who are trying to challenge the market leaders, and in most businesses, you will find some variation of this business strategy, which is predominantly a market share strategy. The challenge with that is that it's a very, very high cash burn strategy. And at the Tata Group, a view was taken not to go down that path. Secondly, the established leaders have disproportionate cost advantages, and hence chasing them will actually mean a higher burn than what they originally took. Hence, it was decided to go in through a brand forward route, and Tata Click's collection, assortment, and the biggest evidence is the average order value on fashion, on electronics, on many categories. We are able to actually clock twice the average order value as most market leaders, which is owing to the fact that it's a brand forward collection and not necessarily a label forward collection. Does that?
I hope it certainly does. Otherwise, you have a chance to interact with the speaker himself during the social lounge. And we'll take one final question, Niranjan. If you could go off mute. Yes. So, final question is, how has the behavior of your target audience or your target customers changed over the last 2 months?
Okay. Fair enough. So 2 months is actually too long a time frame. Now we are living in days or maybe hours. I don't know.
True. Exactly.
Yeah. So I'll actually try to answer this more from a lockdown perspective. So while initially there was a lot of drop in demand, as people settled in, as all the panic went away, we are actually seeing a lot of surge in traffic in terms of overall e-com shopping. This is a time when all the tacit demand will get unlocked. In China, I think there are a lot of trends as the lockdown opens up. Online shopping is picking up far faster than offline. Primary reason being that people will still avoid going out into public spaces. They do need their merchandise, and they do have accumulated income in some sense because of a lack of spending. So we are seeing a lot of pickup in especially high involvement categories. With families locked in together, all of those difficult decisions of which TV everybody in the house wants to buy are actually getting answered at this time. And we are able to see a lot of demand on such goods. As the lockdown sort of eases out, that's where we see the market coming out in a very different shape and form. Of course, it will depend on the kind of policies the government takes, the kind of spending that the private sector does, in terms of which pieces of the puzzle will take a upper hand. But online retail, for sure, will have a very, very strong role to play as the lockdown opens up.
Right. Now, that makes a lot of sense. That was our final question. For those who still have questions unanswered, Niranjan will now make his way to the social lounge where you can interact with him. Thank you so much, Niranjan, for sharing your insights with us. I'm sure a lot of our audience today across geographies and online industries will definitely benefit from the same. Thank you once again for making the time and for being a part of the Virtual Martech Mashup Summit 2020.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Pradyut, and thanks to the entire Netco team for this. Thank you.
Thank you. So, guys, we'll now be moving to the social lounge. Post a brief interval of about 2 to 3 minutes, we'll begin with our second individual speaker session. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to welcome our second individual speaker. We have none other than Mr. Duc Pham, Deputy Head of Marketing from Sendo, all the way from Vietnam. With almost 9 years of experience in the digital marketing, analytics, and branding domains as a marketer, entrepreneur, and digital builder, Duc is the Deputy Head of Marketing at one of Vietnam's leading e-commerce platforms, Sendo.vn. Focusing on growth and lasting business impact, Duc has rich expertise working across the e-commerce, digital fashion, travel, and electronics industries. On behalf of Netcore, I'd like to welcome Mr. Duke Pham, and we look forward to hearing what you have for the audience today. Welcome once again, Duke.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. So it's great to be here today on behalf of all of the speakers. Thank you to spend your time, your busy time in the middle of the pandemic to join an event about MarTech. So as Prahut already introduced me, so let me start right away into my deck. So today I'm gonna talk about how Sendo doing personalization and reach the Vietnamese local. A little bit of introduction about Sendo. So Sendo we start at 2012 and at part of the FPT group. And after the whole 7 years, we had grown at an extremely high rate. So we managed to achieve 3-time growth year over year each year. And during that time, we also managed to get several funding rounds, as you can see here, and the latest funding round is last year on November, which we got the Series C investment from a number of investors, including SoftBank and almost all of our old investors. And make sure to keep up with the new because we're gonna announce something big in the next coming month. So just a little bit of introduction for everyone who's not familiar with the Vietnamese e-commerce landscape. So Vietnam is actually one of the highest growth in terms of both startup technology and e-commerce. In Vietnam, actually, you're gonna be surprised about how Vietnamese users using technology, social network, and e-commerce in their everyday life. So one of the example I always told with all of my foreigner friends is that when you come in Vietnam and you go on Facebook and surf your Facebook new feed, you're gonna get a lot of streaming when the small merchant actually streaming and introduce and selling their product on Facebook. So it's a kind of like online commerce is big in Vietnam. And in here I have the e-commerce Southeast Asia report from Google and Temasek last year. And you can see actually in Vietnam, last year, the total e-commerce market is $5 billion. And in the next 5 years, in 2025, we estimate that the growth gonna be 49%, and it comes to 23 billion GMV per year. So this is the latest performance from Sendo. So last year we actually ranked number 2 in total shopping app in the whole Southeast Asia. This data is the aggregated data from iPrice. So they are aggregated data from SimilarWeb and App Annie, and we come in number 2 for the total APEC. This is very special because for Sendo, because we actually should operate in Vietnam, when we have many competitors in the region like Lazada and Shopee. And as I said before, our year-over-year growth rate is 300%. Last year on Black Fridays and on our New Year's sale, on Lunar New Year sale, we managed to sell 5 million products on the week sale. So this is coming to the main thing I want to talk about, how in Sendo we do personalization. So just like with the last speaker, you guys might see this a lot before, and especially for an e-commerce side, there's many things we can do in terms of personalization that had become, you can say that a must-have. But then how we use it and what what feature we have used, or you can even see learn. You can even use the term learn from the other big player. So before going into that, I need to give you a little bit of background of our customer. So you can see here our customer is actually quite broad, both male and female, but then they are more in class B or C or even D, which means they have from average to low income, and more than half of Sendo customer come outside of the primary city in Vietnam. That's the Hanoi, the capital, and Ho Chi Minh, the biggest city in the south. And because of that, if you go on to Sendo.vn on our app Sendo, you can see that our design, our UX, UI is quite tailored to the suburban customer. So it's very like tech crowded and don't have a modern, clean or minimalism look of most of fashion or other e-commerce. And one of the other thing about being tailored to the suburban customer is that we not really fine-tuning the product image. Yes, our product is uploaded by our merchant, but then we don't force them to have really nice product image with a wide background or 360 view of the product at all. So 95% of our product look very simple with a background. So a image, something like you can just put the image and take it with your mobile phone camera and then upload it to Sendo. So very simple. But then behind the simple and very plain look, we actually optimize and use all of the best recommendation feature, you can say personalization feature that the big e-commerce globally have. For example, for on-site recommendation, in here is my actually real screenshot when I do a very quick shopping on Women's Day for present, and I end up buying the lipsticks. After that, you can see that most of the product both on the website and the app, this is the home screen, is quite tailored to actually woman product, when before that I actually have most of like mobile phone accessory or laptop gaming accessory. And above that, still in the homepage, we actually have the top trending search. And the top trending search of this season absolutely is the face mask or the hair clipper, because we can go outside to get a haircut, and the Women's Day gift. Right after the suggested search, we have the trending search. We have the suggested category. In here, we also use all of the customer behavior information to pushing which category we should show the customer. So each of you, when you go into our web and going to our app after a couple of times, then all of your screen will be different person to person. And not just on our homepage or the listing page. When you go into the product detail, we also using the recommendation and user data in both of the sponsor product and recommendation. So this is something really impressive from our engineer, because sponsor product is something that our merchant they actually purchase an advertising package from Sendo to promote their product. But then what we're doing is we're not just pushing out the product, but then also including the recommendation into the ad platform on Sendo, and show the customer a very relevant product to optimize for the conversion rate. So one of the things is it's different from category to category. For example, on you can say horizontal string, actually the sponsor and the recommendation for a shoe product. And in here you can see that for shoe, actually we show mostly about shoe, because this is all done by the system. But then when deep dive into it and having assumption, we saw that people who intend to buying shoe, they have a very clear, and they actually said that I need to buy a shoe now. They don't actually have any intent for any product to cross selling. But then on the vertical screen, so this is on our app and on a product of the in the category of bedroom. Here you can see that we have RAF, and then we also have something very interesting, which is karaoke machine and their accessory. So for your information, in Vietnam, we actually have karaoke machine in mostly in the bedroom, and sometimes we have it in both the living room and the bedroom. So it's actually different from category to category in terms of using recommendation and sponsor product. And not just on our website. So in our advertising and marketing, we also utilize the power of machine learning and AI for recommendation. But then this come with the help of the two biggest company in the world, which is Google and Facebook. And then also a lot of our partner, which is, you can say that the top of their category in terms of recommendation and retargeting, which is Criteo and RTB House. So using them, we managed to personalize our advertising message to our customer and really increase our conversion rate a lot. And outside of advertising, in terms of marketing using data, both of our app push notification and email are using the recommendation and the technology to retarget user, give them the relevant product that they had viewed or they had add to cart before, and push them to make a purchase. So that's for some of you, the information that I just said, you already read it somewhere. So how we actually do that? Here is my take, and it's quite similar. So when in the last presentation you see about the 4 building blocks. So in here, I will show you actually Sendo 3 out of 4 building blocks. So we just left, I just left in terms of like human resource and people out of the presentation. So in terms of data, we track everything using both of the web crawler, the API, and using also UTM in all of our advertising. And then we track everything, and then we log it in our database first, clean it and upload it to an internal system or an external platform to do further executing. In terms of analyze data, we actually use Google Cloud combined with BigQuery, and it's actually a very great tool in terms of it have very good, you can say, price, and also it have the ability to also using TensorFlow, so it Google AI and machine learning function. And for tracking, I repeat tracking a lot because for app, actually, we have a very fragmented understanding of the app platform. That's why we have several tools to track the attribution of our marketing campaign, which is we using AppFlyer. And then for app engagement, user behavior, and product analytics, we use Firebase, which is also from Google. And with all of the data, like I said above, most of the action from advertising sides is from Google and Facebook. We don't have any choice because in Vietnam, they have like dominant the market around like 90 to 95% of all of the media is from Google or Facebook. But then we have a lot of data. We track everything. It's not easy to bring our data to Google and Facebook, both about privacy. It's just even if it's not about privacy, it's not easy to just upload the data we have to Google and Facebook. So we being creative. Something like when the KPI is about new buyer, instead of thinking about uploading new data, new buyer data into Google and Facebook system, we just in here I list out. So we have different checkout page. So if you are a whole new user, you need to register an account when you're doing checkout. So that's where we actually pushing the data to all of the systems, so Google and Facebook. And after that, in the checkout success page, we also separate the checkout page to make sure that we can double check if you finish your checkout process. Another example on how we actually pushing the data and using the data in Google and Facebook is we bypass Google and Facebook filter. In here, the example is about bikini and lingerie, which is very sensitive when it comes to Google and Facebook policy. So how we doing that? We actually don't push the sensitive image onto Google and Facebook, but we use the accessory and we use alternative link to it. But then in that link, we actually including all of the product that the customer had viewed before. So a nice set of bikini Victoria's Secret. And that's campaign performance really well. But then one of the interesting insight out of that is actually the product that we use to bypass Google and Facebook filter also performance really well because it's relevant to the customer. And lastly, for the CM, we actually use Nextcard, so the host of today's conference. And we're not using them as an action tool, a communication tool to our customer, but we also use them to synchronize our user profile and all of the activity. We actually using them to do a lot of action in terms of segment the user and then push it to Google and Facebook. So the last thing on my presentation, I want to talk more on in terms of the mindset, because like personalization using AI and machine learning is not hard, but then when you're doing that, you need to have a right mindset. And the right mindset, in my opinion, is before doing anything, you need to talk directly with your customer. Yes, you can stay in your office, or now you can stay at home and thinking about the customer journey, the customer flow. But are you always right? We are not sure about that. The customer is the one who is always right. So talking with the customer, even to just a person buying from you one time or two, or even the person who visit your website, but then they decide not to buy anything, actually can give you very important information. So talk with your customer. The second is don't just use the number, but then you need to understand the insight behind them. So something like why in our data we define that a customer must be pregnant, and what they are buying, we guess that they must buy something like baby product to prepare for their upcoming baby, but the data is actually different. And when we come back to the first one, when I call up the customer and I actually also talk with many of my friends who are pregnant, I understand that. So what they are looking for, many of our pregnant customers actually looking for sweat treat or snack, because when they are pregnant, they want to actually eat sweat, or in some case just eating a lot. And because I'm a man, so I don't have this insight. So this insight comes from the data and also talk directly with customers. So just don't use the number, but then you need to understand them. And lastly, even to in my presentation, I talk a lot about personalization. It's not the only one tactic, because as a marketer, you need to try and test many different ways to reach your customer and optimize for your result. And beside personalization, we have something like predictive marketing, or even if you do mass communication, but with a very good content, a very relevant content, then you will have even better outcome than just doing one-to-one communication. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, Duke. I think the audience will really benefit from some of the key points that you've made. It was fascinating for starters to go through Sendo's growth story since its inception in 2012. It was interesting to hear about how Sendo powers on-site recommendations, not just based on user behavior, but also with regards to the sponsored products that you give recommendations for. Your slide on advertising personalization threw a lot of light on how Sendo does that. And I think your last slide on how marketers can actually, not rely on just personalization as a concept, while it drives a great amount of growth. but it's so important to actually listen to your customers. And when we say listen, we don't mean just take their feedback, but also analyze and understand their user behavior. And you need to treat your customers not just as numbers and data points, but as individual customer personas. So thank you so much for sharing those deep dive insights once again, Duke.
Yeah, thank you, Prajut, and thank you everyone for listening. So I guess
we've got a couple of quick
yeah.
questions that we'll take. Our first question is: does Sendo send recommendations for cart abandonment as well through push notifications, or is it just push notifications, or does Sendo use other push channels as well?
Oh, just like in my presentation, I did said that we do have abandoned cart in the whole completed journey. Oh,
Right.
not completed journey yet, but then we try to achieve that. So now we have both app push notification, email, and web push notification in a journey. What we're trying to achieve is also when our customer visit the app, they can also receive the message about cart abandoned.
Right. And would you be sending recommendations as well for these cart abandonment push notifications?
Well, we are thinking about testing that because when it comes to app push notification, it's marketing, but then it's quite intrusive channel because they are not actively open our app. So we need to be very careful and just pushing out the most relevant information unless we have a really interesting, exciting promotion, not recommendation at first.
Okay, that makes sense. And that brings me to our final question for this session. You mentioned how Sendo drives personalized communication across both MarTech and AdTech spaces through on-site and advertising personalization. What, according to you, will be the next implementable trends with the use of AI and ML?
Oh, that's actually a hard question. But then, in terms of using AI and ML, we are trying to using them to increase our customer satisfaction. It's different from increase our conversion rate because in terms of increase our customer satisfaction, what we're trying to do is actually predict which product gonna be how can I say it? It's actually not good for the customer. So it's more on the seller and product management. When we define best seller and best actually not sometimes it's not best seller, but then best route shipping route product. So for example, if you're looking for this time a face mask, and even to we have 100 products which are cheap at a cheaper price. I won't show you this product if it's in Hanoi and you are in Ho Chi Minh City because it will take 3 in this quarantine time. It might take even 7 days. Face mask is kind of like a hot product, and in this time of emergency, when you're buying it, you might need it as soon as possible. So we will show the product in Ho Chi Minh City, even if it's more expensive. So something like that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And on that note, I'd like to thank you, Duke, for sharing your insights with the audience on such a unique platform. It's been a fascinating event so far. We've seen speakers across geographies share key insights on how they believe their brands are benefiting the most by driving personalization at scale through the use of cutting edge strategies, through a solid MarTech stack, and by building a solid foundation driven by customer data. Without further ado, let me introduce you to our fourth speaker this evening. We have none other than Nakul Jayatsen, product manager and evangelist at Netcore Solutions, who's going to be walking you through how brands can deliver customer delight through the power of personalization. Over to you, Nakul.
Got it. So I'm sharing my screen. Please let me know when you can see it.
Yes, your screen is visible.
Am I audible?
You're audible as well, Nakul. Please go ahead.
Awesome. So a quick introduction here. So I'm Nakul. I've been part of the AI-based personalization engine, the product team here at Netcore, previously Box.ai and now Netcore. I have been speaking to retailers for about 3.5 years now about personalization and what it can do. And today I'm going to flip the question a little because all my conversations have been around revenue and how can we drive revenue. But there's this one flip I want to do. I'm saying I want to drive delight. So as an e-commerce company, as an OTT company, as a bank, as a BFSI, how do we drive delight? Right? If we flip that question, we put the human being at the center. And when we do that, we start asking a very different set of questions. And today, I'm not going to give you any numbers, metrics, or strategies that you can employ. I'm going to give you 3 questions that you can ask in your team meetings, and you can move towards personalization. You can move towards delight. So again, I'm not giving out any metrics here. I'm giving you 3 questions you need to ask. 1, do you know everything your users do in your store? And I'll tell you why it is important to know everything. The first thing that might come up in your mind is, yeah, we know we have clickstream data, so we know what they're clicking on, what they're adding to cart, what they're buying, what they're choosing. So we know that. But there is this big vacuum before a click happens. Do you know that? And I'll tell you why it's important, and then I'll tell you how to track that. So you have a human being, and a human being is often led by 3 things. They have a taste based on past experience. So they've liked things earlier, they've disliked things earlier, and they create their own unique taste profile. My taste profile is very different from Pradyut's taste profile and maybe the 300 people here, 200 people here. Their taste profiles are unique. It's based on their experience, what they like and dislike. And when there is a need, they make a choice. So a human being develops a taste over the years, and when there's a need, the human makes a choice, but primarily through the taste profile or what they like and what they dislike. Now, how do you capture this? Because click, add to cart, and buy is once I've made the choice. I've made the choice to click on it. I've made the choice to add it to cart and buy. So I will go through 3 sets of examples. In e-commerce, so let's say I've bought this product. So I've clicked on the product, I've added it to cart, and I've bought it. But I have also viewed these other 3 products while doing it, right? So I have disliked these 3 products at this point in time, and then ended up buying the first product on the screen. But there's even more to this. I have eyeballed all of these products. I have chosen to click on 4, and eventually I've added to cart the first product and bought it. So this talks a great deal about my taste, about what I like and what I dislike. So there is positive feedback and negative feedback coming from here. So this is an e-commerce example. If I move into OTT, so I have chosen to watch Parasite today. I have watched the entire movie, and usually when the industry is at this point in time, we're capturing if Nakul has watched it 10%, 30%, 50%, 100%. So we capture how much Nakul has watched. So what about the decision-making part? So what I have chosen to watch Parasite over and above these other movies that I have eyeballed, right? So I have chosen Parasite after eyeballing all these movies, but I did not choose to watch them. I chose to watch Parasite at this point in time. How do we infer this information? And let's move to BFSI. I bought health insurance, but I also eyeballed life insurance, debit card, travel card, a car loan, or a house loan. So I eyeballed all of these products that the BFSI or the bank had to offer, and I chose to buy health insurance. So if I were to do a H2, it is, do you really know everything? Which is 1, what did I eyeball when I was going through the store? So are you capturing all of that? Next, once I eyeballed, then are you capturing the click based on the eyeball? Now, what did I eyeball but I did not click on? So this piece of information is crucial because it tells you what I might not like. Well, so point number 2 tells you what I might like. Point number 3 will tell you what I might not like. And then point number 4 is what did I not eyeball and hence not click on. So that removes the products that are not eyeballed at all. So you create my unique taste profile. What have I eyeballed? Hence, what have I clicked on? What have I added to cart? What have I bought? So this is with data. So how do you go to the depths of information that starts talking about the true taste of the user in comparative sense? So what did I see? What did I not see? What did I like? What did I dislike? The question number 2 you need to ask your teams is, do you predict what your customers are going to do next? I'll tell you why this is important. Over the last few years that I've spoken to retailers, everybody is very happy with intelligent segments. They say, Nakul, we have intelligent segments, we have popular products, similar products, we update it every day, we update it every week. But if I were to place a timeline from maybe the year 2000 to the year 2050, this was very good, probably in till up to 2018, maybe mid 2019. But the world is moving towards custom product ranking per user. So are you predicting what each user is going to do next? And are you creating a custom list of products for Nakul, a custom list of products for Pradyut, and for the 1 million unique users you have, the 10 million unique users you have? Do each of those users have their own set of product ranks? And when I say that, so this is a pictorial example of that. So user 001 that you see to your left is most likely to buy products 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with that order of probability. That's user 001's custom rank. While user 002 is likely to buy the 4 products that you see over there with her own order of probability. So are you really predicting what your users are going to do next, rather than looking backward and saying, based on what users have done till now, these are popular products, these are similar products, you have these pools of data, and then instead of doing that, you say, let's look forwards and use the same data, and how do we build an AI engine that predicts what the user is going to do next? Let's start moving towards one-to-one personalized recommendations looking forwards. And in fact, there is proof that this works. So 35% of your product purchases can be driven through just AI-based predictive personalization. 80% of your content views as an OTT can be driven through AI-based predictive personalization. And these are not just random numbers I'm throwing. This is what Amazon and Netflix already does. So 35% of all product purchases on Amazon are attributed to their AI engine that predicts what the user is going to do next. And 80% of our content views that happen on Netflix are attributed to predictive personalization. And I just spent one more minute on this slide. When you have a custom set of products, you can work around whatever you want. You can apply whatever filters you want. So for example, you can run merchandising on top of this custom product list. So let's say you have deals, and you want to clear inventory, and you have 1,000 products in that. So just apply the deals filter on the custom product rank, and I will get the deals for me reordered in my view of your website or app, and Pradyut or the 1 million users, individual users will get their own personalized deals. So all you need to do is start adding filters, and you will meet every merchandising requirement. You want to add bestsellers, you want to add new arrivals, you want to add you want to add dresses, you want to add shoes. Irrespective, you can just choose the category you want and personalize each and everything, right? So this is question number 2. Are we predicting what our users are going to do next? And the third question you need to ask your team is, are you personalizing everywhere? So 1, are we capturing enough information to infer the taste of the user? 2, are we predicting what the user is going to do next? And 3, are we personalizing everywhere? And I've built a simple quadrant here that you can use. You probably screenshot it or write it down. 1 is my website and app personalized. So each and every user is unique. Are they getting a unique experience on my website and app? Or is there duplication? Are 500,000 users seeing the same set of products irrespective of their tastes and preferences? Next is your email and notifications. So are these personalized? And when I say personalized, I don't mean name personalization, location personalization, or like, hi Nakul, this is an email for you. Hi Pradyut, this is an email for you. That age is over. Are you sending me products that are relevant to me or are most personalized to me? because emails and notifications are notorious. If you don't send something relevant, first of all, most of us don't open it. Once I open it, I will unsubscribe if it is irrelevant, or if you're spamming me with a lot of irrelevant emails, I will mark you as spam, or I'll mark you as phishing. And in notifications, I myself have uninstalled apps that send me irrelevant notifications. So how are you driving personalization through emails and notifications? The next one is social ads. So how you running personalized social ads on Facebook and on Instagram. So right now we have retargeting where what I've seen earlier, based on that you show me the same products through ads on Facebook and Instagram. But are you personalizing on Instagram and on Facebook as well? So am I getting ads with products that I'm most likely to buy, while is Pradyut getting ads that with products that he's most likely to buy? And the fourth one is your offline store, which is your experience store. So are you driving personalization there as well? So in brick and mortar, it's tough to drive personalization because you can't reorder your racks based on everybody who's entering your store. So do you have digital interfaces in your stores as well? So do you have tablets? Do you have TVs where people can go interact and tell you what they like, what they dislike, and then you integrate your sales teams and your and the teams sitting at your store to use these apps, to use the tablet or to use that digital interface, and then take the person through the store and get them to buy. So again, the third question is, are you personalizing everywhere? And I think I'm faster than anybody else over here. I have 9 minutes left and I'm almost at the end. So finally, if you were still to ask, Nakul, why should I do any of this? I will say the answer is COVID. And when I say COVID, I don't mean the virus, the coronavirus COVID. I mean your consumer views it differently. So when you put the human being at the center, each human has their own unique tastes and preferences, and it makes no sense for that individual human to see something that everybody else is seeing. So your consumers view it differently. So you need to have, let's say you have 1 million consumers on your site, you need to have 1 million unique versions of your website. And just to summarize all the points, if you are able to drive personalization, you're able to drive a degree of delight, and hence you're also able to increase, there's a delta increase in your revenue as well. So you personalize, you're able to run delight, you're able to also increase your revenue. And just to top it off, we fight stronger when we fight together. So I think we announced this earlier as well. We have our own AI-based personalization engine that we've poured millions of dollars into. We have about 6 or 7 patents in that area. We're willing to give it out to users who really need it, to e-commerce sites, to OTT sites, and to media platforms that really need it and can make use of it. And we're offering to foot the bill for 6 months so that we can get through the pandemic together. And I'm done. Actually,
hey, awesome, Nakul. I think the fact that you summarized all of that using a very oft-used acronym in today's times actually lent it a very, very relevant and insightful feel. The fact that you said that all consumers view it differently, and I think that's so important. And I think a lot of brands pursue and look at personalization through a very different lens, so to speak. They talk about it being a segment of one. Just to break it down, I think you spoke about how brands need to treat individual users and customers at a very basic, subliminal, individual user level. And I think that becomes the key to actually develop those and foster those long-lasting customer relationships.
True. And when you're speaking about personalization, all of our companies are driven by KPIs. I totally understand that. I mean, our use of being at a place of work is driven by a KPI.
Absolutely.
But if you change the equation here, forget revenue for some time. You just say, I want to drive delight. I want to drive delight to the human beings. And where I inferred that is from one of the conversations I had earlier this year with one of our top clients, where users on the website wrote to my client saying, how do you know what I like?
Right.
It's amazing. And he saw that people started sharing his website a lot more because they're so fascinated with that. And he put up a poster saying Harry Potter is predicting what it was likely to buy.
Okay.
So that's the software aspect. I mean, do it for the person on the other side. You drive delight, revenue will follow. You don't have to work.
I think wonderfully encapsulated, Nakul. Thank you so much for sharing those insights. And I'm sure there are plenty of people out there in the social lounge right now who have a lot of questions for you as well. So thank you for being a part of this August platform. I now request you to move to the social lounge where a lot of folks are waiting with questions. And you can also talk about how Netcore has come up with this specially curated program to help businesses use personalization at scale during this extremely challenging time. Thank you once again, Nakul.
Thanks, Pradeep.
Gentlemen, welcome to the final segment of this wonderful and historic event, the virtual Martech Mashup Summit 2020, Asia's first ever and largest Martech conclave virtually, as we know it. We are now at the panel discussion, and we had 4 awesome individual speaker presentations, and we're now going to be in a panel discussion with some of the leading industry experts across geographies, across industries, who are going to be sharing their insights through a very engaging session. Without further ado, let me introduce you to my first panelist, Mr. Ashish Bajaj, Head of Marketing, DocSap India. With over 9 years of experience in the marketing domain, Ashish is the head of marketing at DocSap, India's #1 medical app with over 3.5 million users and 3,000 plus doctors. He has previously held marketing leadership positions at Ola and Microsoft. So glad to have you as part of this panel discussion. Welcome, Ashish.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. Our next speaker is Mr. Freddie Lu, Senior General Manager, Analytics and Digital Products at the Star Media Group, Malaysia. With a master's degree in computer science, majoring in security and AI, Freddie's career spans more than 18 years. During this time, Freddie has consulted hundreds of businesses on enterprise transformation, including business intelligence and data analytics. At the Star Media Group, which is a leading media conglomerate based out of Malaysia, he focuses on spearheading the organization's transformation into a data-driven entity, delivering high-quality products and solutions. Welcome, Freddie. So glad to have you as a part of our panel discussion today. And finally, we have all the way from down under, Mr. Mark Batse, a leading marketing consultant. Mark is an independent consultant helping digitally led companies with growth strategy. He's worked with a wide range of companies, including the likes of Vodafone, Microsoft, and other Fortune 500 brands. And he was named the top 50 CMO in Australia. So glad to have you with us today, Mark.
Greetings from Sydney.
And in fact, we also had a 4th speaker, Mr. Sushil Tripathi, Digital Marketing Manager from the Apparel Group in UAE. Unfortunately, he would not be able to join us for this discussion due to technical challenges. But as we know, the show must go on, and we have to give the audience what it really needs and asks for. So the topic for today's panel discussion is something that's on every marketer's, every brand's mind today, right? Everybody wants to know what's going to happen with regards to marketing in 2020 and beyond. Do digital brands need to rewrite the marketing playbook? That's the topic for today's discussion. And my first question to you, as we go sequentially from Ashish to Freddie and to Mark, my first question to you is, what are the major consumer behavior trends that you're witnessing in your region and industry?
So thanks for the question, Pradeep. See, over the few decades, we've been seeing that the trends or consumer mindsets or the needs of the consumer keep changing over a decade as a time. Yes, beyond 2020 and keeping in mind current situations, the digital mindset, or I should say the need spectrum of consumers have changed or evolved. I should not use the word change, it is evolving. Right. And just to give you an idea, WhatsApp, for instance, the major creation or building the product was to have a one-on-one or a group chat. Now it has evolved in ordering our local groceries to the mom and pop store next to us. So
Right.
that is the kind of change and that is the kind of evolution that the consumer in today's age is experiencing.
Right.
And the playbook, okay, so the base always remains the same, that it's the emotion which a brand has with the consumer. That still remains true. Am I using the brand in my daily life is still the answer that a consumer asks. But yes, the ways of reaching out to consumer and the language or the engagement that we need to drive with the consumers is going to be a very crucial part of the playbook.
Okay. We now move to Freddie. Your thoughts on how consumer behavior is changing during these turbulent times?
Sure. So a bit of context, right? So I come from a media industry. So I'm speaking from my readers' audience perspective, right? And it's no secret that the industry has changed, largely due to changing behaviors, right? I mean, mobile first generation, the way you consume information is different. Shift from traditional to digital. We all know all that. Reducing attention span. Now you've got seconds to capture one's attention, right? Rise of disinformation. Right, people are trying to look for sources of trustworthy information. If there's anything to take away, a lot has changed, right? I realize this: there is no shortage of information right now. In fact, too much.
Right.
But all of us as consumers, we have a finite resource, which is attention.
Right.
I can only take in so much, right? So how do I cut through the noise as brand? How do I help my readers to be relevant? It's really for the little time, little attention, little energy that I have, right? How can I cut through the noise and show them what they need to see? I think that's really the biggest shift that I see right now.
Okay.
Mark?
Interesting. Mark, what's your take on this?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to interpret the question as in what's changed in the last month, because everything's changed in the last month, right?
Right.
And we're in a brand new world right now. I mean, what I'm seeing is, I mean, it's a bad answer, but it's all over the place, and it's still settling down. But I'm kind of in the fortunate position that I get to work kind of internally across a range of like the largest e-com companies in Australia, and I'm also tapped into a network of about 200 to 300 kind of CEOs and senior e-commerce leaders across Australia and APAC. So I get to kind of see what they're talking about, and very actively chattering with them. And what I'm seeing consistently is that everything is different. I don't know a single business that's not been significantly touched. Some have revenue up, some have revenue down. But what I'm seeing is even those who are doing really well, like I'm working with a large company doing hundreds of millions who've doubled in revenue. But the product mix is completely different, and we're seeing different demographics. And then even amongst their core demographic, they're having different expectations and they're buying differently. So it's what I'm really working closely with companies is like everything you know about your customers, just throw out and start again. You know, there's one company I'm doing a lot of work with who's historically had a very millennial audience, and you know, most of their customers are like you know 20 to 30, that kind of bracket. And now we find that their biggest growth segment in the last 3 weeks is 45 to 54-year-olds.
Okay.
The sales of that group has increased 50%. I mean, now they are now the biggest segment for this company, who is a segment who's been completely neglected previously. So really having to look at everything and just re-examine all these assumptions and all this consumer data you've built up over the last years, months, years of your business, decades in some cases.
Correct. Yes, that's an interesting insight because, you know, we live in an environment that is so fast changing, not on the basis of months or weeks anymore, but almost in a matter of days. You know, there's a central directive that says that a lockdown has been extended. Consumers are going to behave in a very, very different manner immediately in the aftermath of that decision. So yes, I think a lot of the data that we've collected on consumer behavior over the last many months and years, we have to reevaluate and relook all of that. So I think very pertinent points made on that front. I'd now like to pick your brains on, you know, with a lot of economy, a lot of the global economy being eroded now, almost $2.7 trillion to the tune. Now going out of the global economy, with consumer behavior altering, a lot of companies are now relooking their marketing budgets. They're looking at how they will split it across traditional and digital channels. So what is your take on these marketing budget spends and splits getting reshaped? Is there greater emphasis on digital and mobile marketing currently and moving forward? Ashish.
So, Pradit, before I answer that question,
Sure.
one point which Mark mentioned was that the consumers who are 45-year-old are coming into the domain of the brand, and I would like to tell with our own data that our focus the target audience for us was also between the 20 to 35 years old, and before the COVID or the lockdown or everything. And after that, the moment all of this started, we have started seeing that 45 years old plus to 65 years old are getting onto our platform and taking online doctor consultations. So that's a massive shift that has happened. And we have seen 20% week on week growth of those users. So that's a huge number.
No, absolutely. Because you identify that there are different demographics have now emerged as key consumers, and that's the flip side and the pitfall of a situation like this, where new data comes to light and you have to evolve and pivot based on how the market responds.
Absolutely.
So that was a lead up to my next question, which where I asked was, how are brands today looking at doubling down on digital and mobile marketing versus traditional? How the budget's being reshaped?
So from the look of it, what we've been experiencing from the last almost 45 to 50 days, people sitting at home, the consumption levels of one for traditional marketing, which includes only TV, has gone up. Second is our internet usage has gone up. So predominantly, these two are going to be the future mediums in terms of till the time we have all the uncertainties around the media or the marketing domain goes out. I think these are going to be the top two mediums. And even if I talk about ourselves, being a digital service, our spends were 95% always mobile.
Okay, interesting. Freddie, your take on how, specifically for the media industry, how they're looking at spends on digital and mobile?
So the situation here in Malaysia, right? I mean, during COVID and post-COVID, economy is going to suffer, right? And a lot of brands are going to suffer, and they're going to be a lot more prudent. And then let me give you another piece of information. But 95% of businesses here are actually SMEs. So SMEs powers the economy, right? And SMEs are the ones that they've got limited cash flow, business is not so great and whatnot, right? The last thing they want is I want to spend hundreds and thousands for building brands. So it's difficult, right? But I cannot not spend because post-COVID, then I need to pick up my business, right? There is tacit demand that's going to be unlocked. So really being prudent. And I also noticed that looked at us as media and a partner differently, right? I don't want just to buy marketing. I don't want just to put an ad. I want a platform that's able to connect me from my buyers to my sellers. So I'm beyond just putting an ad, putting an article, right? I see myself as a platform right now. How can I build a brand? How can I connect to the business community, which I have access to? How can I connect with my readers, right? So this is the kind of relationship that they see us as. I guess it's tough times, right? So we'll do what it takes to make it happen.
Right, no, makes sense. Interesting point there, where you're not just a platform where content is being consumed, but you become an enabler to actually prop up the entire SME sector. So that's a valuable point. Mark, your take on this?
Yeah, so I mean, there's no doubt that the budget spends are changing. So I mean, what I've seen is kind of like early mid-March when everything was like there was just massive uncertainty. I mean, there's still uncertainty now, but I think we have a new normal to some extent. You know, we know we're all going to be in lockdown for weeks or months or however long. I saw people kind of just temporarily cutting budgets, just as a kind of temporary kind of just like, well, I don't know what's going on here. Let's save cash. And now that people are in a new normal, we've got 2, 3, 4 weeks worth of data coming in. I'm seeing some companies have continued at a lower basis, but I'm seeing a lot of companies actually invest or change their way they're spending money. So a couple of companies I'm working with, they're doing really well, and they've seen, okay, there's an opportunity here, there's an opportunity to take market share, and so how do we take advantage of that? So, for example, there's a few companies who've traditionally been very brand bottom funnel focused in the digital realm, and who are actually moving some of their spend up to more top funnel stuff to kind of reach a broader, wider audience. And it's like, there's all these people who just historically may not have bought from us, who suddenly can't buy from anywhere else. We're talking mostly e-com players here, who can't buy from anywhere else. And so it's like, well, let's take advantage and reach new people while we can. And so we're really shifting spend to top funnel, not radically, although I was just chatting with someone just about an hour ago about increasing their top funnel spend 50% for next week, just to see what happens. I'm seeing more traditional stuff like PR. Unfortunately, the budgets are being cut. I'm not sure I personally agree with those decisions, but I know a couple of people at various PR agencies are doing quite poorly at the moment. TV, I'm not as across, so I'll kind of defer to the other guys on that.
All right, that's an interesting take. I think the key takeaway from this particular question was essentially how marketing budgets will actually be shaped based on evolving consumer behavior, the industry that you find yourself in, and how you want to position yourself for future growth moving forward. There needs to be a fine balance between exercising prudence in the moment where you don't want to erode your thinning cash flow or your bottom line. But at the same time, if you're chasing growth, you will have to spend those marketing dollars. So thank you for those responses. My next question is around the key theme of this event. We've seen how personalization has emerged as such a key driver of growth across industries and geographies, whether it is AI driven or whether it is through conversion rate optimization, something where brands focus on delivering value to individual customers through a segment of one. So a lot of our individual speakers also spoke about the power of personalization. How do you see brands delivering personalization at scale? What's your take on the same? What do you think is going to be the future outlook on personalization? Would it be through recommendation engines? Would it be more personalized campaign driven? How would a brand look at personalization today?
So if I may start answering that, I remember the day when I received first personalized notification to one of the brands as an app notification. I was stunned. I said, wow, now they know that I get up at this time and this is my requirement time, and I now need a breakfast. I was like super delighted and elated, and I thought, yes, I need to order.
Right.
Okay, so that's gonna. I think Gagan and Nakul also spoke about personalization at scale, and from a brand point of view, there can be two utilization which I see, which brands have already started, but AI driven next level steps is one. I am driving engagement and being useful to them.
Right.
And from a marketing point of view, AI-driven campaigns or chatbot-driven campaigns are gonna be the next thing. So where I come from, chatbots are actually helping you deliver the message and providing the engagement then and there and closing the loop as well. So it's a new scenario for everyone of us to learn and try to evolve and adapt. And if done correctly, gonna save a lot of marketing dollars for the thin line or the bottom line going down. It may have us a better ROI or an effective marketing spend. And the future is personalization. And giving an example of how are we doing it for chronic diseases patients, they need to be reminded every day for taking their medications, or every month end that you need to get your lab test done. These were your last results. Also, we're trying to help our patients or consumers to have draw a trend line, how their month-on-month lab test or how was their health progressing, and that is all done through AI.
Okay, interesting. Freddie, you can take a stab at this now.
Good on you first. Yeah. So personalization is given. You guys consume online news, recommended reading. Amazon, you guys have seen it. People buy football books, that sort of stuff. So it's all given, right? So I won't belabor the point. And we do all that, right? And we try to gamify the experience as well. You read more, you get a badge or whatnot. But on the flip side, right? I want to cover the flip side of personalization. We cannot be too complete, right? Very help, right? And also for media, if I personalize, it also means I lose discoverability, the element of surprise. Freddie loves football. I just keep showing him football. I'll never read about cricket. I'll never read about Formula One, right? So it's always a balance. And a very interesting thing I read over the weekend is about how we notice a book, right? It's not for me, but a book, right? How we see a lot of sequels and movie franchise nowadays, right? Episode 1 to episode 7 or episode 8 of Fast and Furious and whatnot. Because we've gotten so good in the industry to pick out the DNA of a good movie, I'll just keep repeating, right? The stars, some cast, 50 different action scenes, 2 goals and whatnot, you'll get a hit, right? And we start to notice that are we losing out the creativity like what we see in the 70s, the indie experimental films, right? And this is the thing that I'm very conscious when it comes to consumption of media, where I need to push together certain point of view and surprise my readers, right? So that's the balance that I have with personalization. But in all short, it is given. We need to have personalization.
Right. Very, very interesting point there where, as an industry, you also want to retain that element of surprise. So I think a lot of marketers get immune to that because they're just trying to chase KPIs and conversion rates. So the element of surprise can actually work well for you when you're trying to drive adoption and stickiness. Mark, your take on this?
Yeah, sure. I think personalization and AI are kind of more important now than ever. I mean, it's not that they weren't important 3 months ago, but we've got the old world of kind of segmentation and that sort of stuff, which still has some some merit to it, but it's getting harder and harder to make that useful, and particularly as per my previous example, where we've got we've got brands, the demographics changing, what they're buying is changing, how they're buying it is changing, when they're buying it is changing. For example, there's been a huge shift in Facebook from mobile usage to desktop usage. People are using it far more on the desktop than they historically have. Normally only a couple of %. And so and to get good customer data takes time, and we just don't have that sort of time, and things are changing too fast. And so the only thing that can learn that fast is computers. It's AI, it's personalization. And so that comes to like everything we do, whether it be product recommendations, which were generally AI driven already, using the variety of recommendation engines out there, things like visual merchandising, search probably was, but it's also looking at the way your media campaigns are structured. Like I was chatting with Google a week or 2 ago, the head of e-com for Google in Australia, and he was saying, look, things are changing so fast. Just lean on the algorithm and just let that do its work. So I think it's more important now than ever, and I'm streamlining some personalization and AI projects for some companies that I'm working with that are already underway. That's just like, let's get this out there and let's just let the people work for us.
Right. I think, again, very valuable points there. And that's something that buys into the vision that we want to drive at Netcore Solutions as well, where context, relevance, and timing are such critical, important features of personalization. And, just for brands across industries to delve deeper and figure out how they can serve their customers better, how they can deliver value across digital touchpoints throughout the customer lifecycle becomes so much more important. So thank you for those insights. I thought we've had enough serious questions already, so I'm going to switch this up a little bit. I've got a couple of rapid fire questions coming at you, where each one of you will have 1 minute to answer those questions. I'm going to begin with Ashish. So by the way, I am timing this as well. So when the alarm rings, I know that you have extended the 1 minute. So we're going to keep this crisp, snappy, and interesting. So you guys ready? All right, awesome. So the first question is 2 hacks or strategies that brands can use to increase user attention.
I need 10 seconds for that. Subscription and gamification.
Okay, that was quick. Okay, so I'm going to start talking, right?
Yes, go.
Okay. Meaningful brand from 3 perspectives. Personal benefit, functional benefit, collective benefit, right? Personal benefit, how does it benefit me? How does it make me look? How does it make me feel? Functional benefit, how does it benefit me? And more importantly, is collective benefit, right? How does this brand help my community?
Okay, awesome. I think I've made this question far too easy, but go on, Mark.
2 hacks for retention. Okay, so first one is after a second purchase, send an email that looks like a text email from a founder, which is not, it's not a fancy formatted email. It looks like a plain text email and says, you know, dear Freddie, thanks so much. We see you've just made a second purchase. We really appreciate it. And just a very friendly personal email from the founder. And you'll find heaps of people will reply and saying, hey, thanks, you know, that's really good. I love working with you guys. The other one is when people are ignoring you, make sure you use your CDP or whatever you're using, customer data platform, to send an audience out to Facebook and reactivate them that way.
Interesting. You guys have all kept it under 30 seconds. So great job on that. My final question of the rapid fire round, this is again for a lot of the audience here. 2 books, 2 podcasts, or blog series, any consumable content that you believe will hold the next generation of marketers, current generation of MarTech practitioners, growth strategists in good stead. What would those be? Okay, I'm going to make this tougher. I'm going to give you 15 seconds only now.
So I think not the books. I'll recommend 2 people to follow. One is Bill Gates because he just elevates your thinking. And the other one is Elon Musk. You would love the way he builds his brand.
Awesome. 13 seconds. All right, Freddie.
A book that I'm reading halfway right now, Tim Wu, The Attention Mission. How's the industry monetizing attention? This book that I just read last weekend.
Oh, nice.
Things, yeah. So this is where I got an example from the whole movie thing. Yeah. And read the start.com by mine, please. I need to do that a bit.
All right, awesome. Mark, your turn.
I'll give 2 answers, one very tactical and one very strategic. So the very tactical one is actually a newsletter called TLDR, which just gives you the latest updates in digital marketing. It's excellent. And then on the very strategic end, it is this, How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp. It is the Bible of brand building. It is absolutely the Bible, and it should be read.
Awesome. So there's Elon Musk in there. There is a lot of other inspirational content out there and personalities to follow. On that note, I'm going to bring this panel discussion to a close. I think I'll just summarize some of the key points that we spoke about. Freddie mentioned how attention span is a finite resource. And that is one constant that has not changed, whether it is pre-COVID, post-COVID. It's not going to change at all. You're still competing for the wallet share, mind share, and screen share of your customers and your target prospects. Mark mentioned how things are, to put it laconically, all over the place. The marketing playbook as we know it will have to be rejigged. Ashish mentioned how key demographics have emerged now based on changing consumer behavior that we've unearthed post this entire period, and we didn't really know about it, and it was a demographic that went completely under the radar back then. We also spoke about how personalization will continue to remain the key, but it's also important to retain that element of surprise in relevant industries. So fantastic observations, insights, and inputs from you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this panel discussion at the virtual MarTech Mashup Summit. Guys, really enjoyed having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's everybody stay safe.
Yes, absolutely. So you guys can now make your way to the social lounge, where I'm sure some of our our attendees are waiting to pick your brains, because you will be the men in demand now.
Thank you. And Mark, I'm going to pick up the book, How Brands Grow.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
There's your referral program, Ashish. All right, guys. Thank you so much. On that note, the event, the speaking sessions and the panel discussion have now come to an end. We are now open to the networking session in the social lounge, where all you need to do is pick a place at the virtual table where you can interact with some of our speakers and panelists. You can also interact with our growth experts from Netcore themselves, who are going to walk you through how you can leverage the power of AI-led personalization to increase conversions by 8 to 13% and get started in as less as 15 minutes. Thank you so much for making this event a grand success. And this is me, Pradyut Hande, your host and moderator, signing off. I look forward to interacting with you on the social lounge. Thank you, guys.